Now, an adventure story that is compelling and puzzling. The saga of Chris McCandless, a young man determined to put himself to some kind of test. What was he thinking when he headed west, rejecting his privileged life, his family, even his own identity? Almost certainly he never envisioned the fate that awaited him.
He graduated with honors in May of 1990. He had achieved. His future was assured when, at the party his parents threw, Chris announced he was going to drop out of sight for a while. He explained he needed to quench a thirst for adventure.
Taking risk, subjecting yourself to a dangerous rite of passage maybe is something many people have to go through to become a man or a woman. This sort of quest, I think you have to let him. I think there's no way you can stop it.
One of the most kind of controversial and puzzling aspects to the story was that he didn't leave a note for his sister, he didn't tell his mother and father, he just left and then never contacted them after that, up until the point when he unexpectedly died.
Was immortalized in a book, required reading in schools across the country.
It was an AP story, I think it was in the New York Times, and it talked about, they called him the hiker. An unknown hiker had been found in the wilderness in Alaska. And the more I read, like the hairs on the back of my neck all stood up. To this day, this may be the one writing project I've ever had, the one book or article that I actually enjoyed the writing. Chris McCandless got under my skin and stayed there, and has stayed there to this day.
And then an award-winning movie called Into the Wild.
Is there anybody here? Guess not!
Bookstore, and I used to go in there quite a bit, and I saw the cover and I judged the book by its cover essentially, and I grabbed it and I ended up reading it cover to cover that night, twice, very early the following morning, and got up whenever I did, and I started trying to explore the film rights, whether it was available to be made. And that turned into what became a 10-year kind of courtship.
Chris's voyage has inspired many, a young man who lived by his ideals and gave his life for it.
He apparently picked up this obsession or extreme interest in this movie and the story 6 to 8 months ago, and he keeps watching the movie. He's been watching it with others and just thinking it was a great idea. I just think he's in over his head, and this was a last-minute decision, something he had been thinking about. And I think because of his heartbreak, it's just something he jumped into to maybe find himself, try and get over this. But clearly, he's not ready for this environment at all. If that's what he's reenacting, I want to interject in this and get involved. In the movie, nobody got involved and looked for him. And so that's why we're out looking for Jonathan, because we want to change this story and have a happy ending.
Live before you die. You know, how many of us actually do that? How many of us actually live? Or do we just exist?
It kind of taps into this longing to wander or to do something unconventional or just live a different life.
I mean, I think one of the reasons why people identify with the story is everyone has that need for adventure, and he's someone who did it, who went for it. You know, we all have those feelings. What if I just went on an adventure? What would happen? And he did it, and everyone wants to do that, really. But, you know, there's so many things that prevent us from doing that, and, you know, for not necessarily the wrong reason.
These three sisters are retracing the steps of their famous brother, a young hiker named Chris McCandless.
He wanted to really separate himself from a situation that he felt was very toxic.
If I had to bet my life on whether my brother was happy on the day that he died, I would tell you that he was. Now, he wasn't happy to be dying, but he was happy that he did everything in his life that he possibly could to live his life, not just be alive. He got more out of his 24 years than most people get if they live to be 90.
Has been criticized for being selfish and unprepared. He was there without a map, without proper gear, and without telling a soul. Chris's goal was to survive here for 100 days, living off only the land. But by day 100, he wrote, "Death looms, too weak to walk out, have literally become trapped in the wild." He was in a weakened state, unable to find enough food. He died here of starvation.
When he finally died, he had done what so many people always wonder, well, what if I did that? And just by crossing that threshold, he had succeeded. What if I were smiling and running into your arms? Would you see then what I see now?